The Galactic Council chamber orbited Veil Prime like a jeweled scar, its vast transparent dome revealing a slow drift of stars. Delegates from 37 civilizations occupied tiered platforms arranged by seniority, mass, and military contribution. The oldest species sat closest to the center, massive, immobile, certain of their permanence. Newer races were pushed outward, smaller, quieter, easier to ignore. Humanity's seat was at the far edge. Commander Elias Vance stood alone on the narrow platform, dark uniform unadorned, posture relaxed without appearing casual. He had learned long ago that stillness unsettled creatures accustomed to dominance displays. Across the chamber, bioluminescent crests flared, armored mandibles clicked, and translation fields shimmered as the council prepared to speak about Earth as if it were a resource node, not a living world. High Counselor Zyarkal rose, his towering frame casting a shadow across the central dais. The Threxian's voice carried effortlessly, layered with harmonic authority designed to trigger submission responses in lesser species. The Dominion has concluded its review, Zyarkal announced. The human system represents an unacceptable variable. Rapid population growth. Unregulated innovation. Emotional volatility. Correction is required. A ripple of agreement followed. Some delegates tapped approval sigils. Others remained silent, which in council terms meant consent. Elias activated his translator. Define correction. Zyarkal's compound eyes narrowed. A limited strike. Infrastructure suppression. Command decapitation. Your species will survive. It will simply learn. A thin smile tugged at Elias's mouth, gone as quickly as it appeared. You're proposing an unprovoked assault on a member world. Member in name only, Zyarkal replied. Earth contributes nothing of strategic value. Several counselors emitted low-frequency amusement. One avian delegate fluttered its wings. They still use kinetic weapons, it chirped. Charming. Elias didn't react. He brought up a hollow panel, projecting data streams into the air. Humanity has complied with every Concord regulation. Our expansion rate is below the galactic median. Our military deployments remain within our own system. Zyarkal waved a claw dismissively. You hide your true capacity. That alone is justification. Or caution, Elias said evenly. We've studied your history. Every extinction-class conflict began with certainty. The chamber quieted, tension tightening like drawn wire. A counselor from the Heliox Combine leaned forward. Are you threatening us, human? No, Elias said. I'm advising restraint. Zyarkal let out a resonant laugh. Advice from a species that has not survived a single galactic war. Elias met the Threxian's gaze. We've survived ourselves. That earned murmurs, confused, uneasy. Zyarkal ignored them. The motion stands. A stabilization strike will proceed within one standard cycle. Elias looked around the chamber, meeting eyes, lenses, sensory nodes. Then allow me to submit a formal objection for record. Denied, Zyarkal snapped. We are done indulging human anxiety. Voting lights ignited across the chamber. Red for approval. Amber for abstention. Green for dissent. Red bloomed like a spreading wound. Amber flickered briefly. Green never appeared. The motion passes, Zyarkal declared. Fleet deployment authorized. Elias lowered his hands, fingers interlacing behind his back. His expression remained composed, but something in his eyes sharpened. A soft chime sounded in his inner ear, priority encrypted, Earth command. He did not answer it. Counselors, he said instead, voice calm, I request a procedural pause. Zyarkal sneered. You have been heard enough. Not for debate, Elias replied. For documentation. A few delegates shifted. The Concord valued records almost as much as power. Speak, Zyarkal allowed. Elias inclined his head. Let it be entered that humanity did not escalate. We warned. We objected. We complied. And failed, Zyrkal said. History will decide that, Elias replied. The Threxian turned away, already dismissing him. Human delegation, you are excused. Elias didn't move. Behind him, his aide, Lieutenant Marichin, stiffened as another silent update hit her display. Her face drained of color. Sir, she whispered, barely audible through the translator field. They crossed the line. Elias exhaled slowly. The room felt suddenly smaller, the air charged. He raised his voice just enough to carry. High Counselor. Zyrkal paused, irritated. What now? Elias looked directly at him. May I ask which fleet you sent? The question drew confused murmurs. Zyrkal's mandibles flexed. The 7th Dominion Spear. More than sufficient. Elias nodded once. Then I request the council remain seated. Laughter erupted, sharp and dismissive. Zyrkal leaned forward. You presume authority you do not possess. No, Elias said softly. I'm accounting for shock. Another chime pulsed in his ear. This time, he accepted it. Earth Command's voice was steady. Controlled. Human. Contact established. Hostile forces neutralized. No civilian losses. Soul secure. Elias closed his eyes for half a second. When he opened them, the laughter was still echoing. He let it finish. Then he spoke. The laughter died unevenly. Some delegates stopped first, sensing a shift they couldn't name. Others continued a moment longer, confused by the human stillness. Elias Vance stood unmoving at the edge of the chamber, hands clasped behind his back, eyes lifted toward the council's central display. Zyrkal's mandibles clicked in irritation. Explain yourself. Elias didn't answer immediately. He raised one finger, a small human gesture that drew curious stares. Please. One moment. The central hollow shimmered as an automated feed forced its way through council protocols. At first, it showed only static, deep space interference, common during fleet maneuvers. Then the image stabilized. Stars. Soul. A Threxian tactical officer appeared, his armor scorched, one eye dark. Dominion Command, we've encountered, the feed cut. Reconnected. Unknown gravitational anomalies. Our formation is breaking. Zyrkal straightened. Maintain discipline. Report. The officer swallowed. Weapons are offline. Not disabled, unresponsive. Power systems cycling without command input. A murmur spread across the chamber. That is not possible, Zyrkal snapped. Human technology does not. The feed shifted again. This time to a wide view of the 7th Spear. Hundreds of Threxian warships hung in formation near the edge of Sol space. No return fire. No visible resistance. Then space bent. Not violently. Not spectacularly. It folded, subtly, like glass under pressure. One destroyer drifted forward and vanished without explosion, without debris, simply erased from the frame. A second followed. Signal loss confirmed, the tactical officer said, voice tightening. They're not firing. They're removing us. Zyrkal's crest flared crimson. Countermeasures. Now. We can't, the officer replied. Navigation is locked. Every vector points away from Earth. Elias finally spoke. That's intentional. Dozens of sensory organs turned toward him. We learned early, Elias continued, voice even, that space itself is the battlefield. Weapons are just noise. The feed jolted as a cruiser attempted to break formation. Its engines flared, then collapsed inward, crushed by an invisible force. The ship imploded silently, leaving a brief distortion before space smoothed itself. An avian counselor screeched. End this transmission. It's a live emergency feed, another delegate said, trembling. We can't override it. Zyrkal's voice rose. Human! Order your forces to stand down. Elias didn't look at him. His gaze remained on the collapsing fleet. You crossed our exclusion line. Your line was theoretical, Zyrkal roared. Elias inclined his head slightly. So were our defenses. The tactical officer reappeared, breathing hard. Command, we've lost 30% of the fleet. No casualties reported. Crews are intact. Ships are simply gone. Gone where? A counselor demanded. The officer hesitated. Displaced. Folded into controlled containment. Human constructs. Zyrkal slammed a claw onto the dais. Withdraw. All units, retreat. A pause. Then the officer shook his head. Retreat denied by external force. The feed showed it then, vast, faint geometries surrounding the fleet. Rings of pale light, barely visible, intersecting at impossible angles. They didn't glow so much as define absence, outlining regions where physics obeyed different rules. We call them shepherd fields, Elias said quietly. They prevent escalation. Zyrkal turned on him. You planned this. We prepared, Elias replied. There's a difference. Another ship vanished. Then 3 more, each removal precise, surgical. No panic aboard. No alarms. Just quiet compliance imposed by something far beyond conventional warfare. A counselor from the Heliox Combine whispered, How long has this been happening? Elias checked an internal display. 6 minutes. The tactical officer's voice broke through again, hoarse. Dominion Command, we are defenseless. Zyrkal's eyes flicked between the feed and Elias. For the first time, uncertainty crept into his posture. Why are you not killing them? Elias finally met his gaze. Because we don't need to. As if on cue, the feed shifted to Earth's orbital view. Blue and white, untouched. No defensive fleets visible. No weapons platforms. Just silence. Earth Command to Liaison, a calm human voice said. All hostile assets neutralized. No civilian impact. Soul secure. The words landed like a physical blow. Silence consumed the chamber. 8 minutes earlier, the Council had voted. 8 minutes earlier, Earth had been marked for correction. 8 minutes earlier, humanity had been dismissed as irrelevant. Zyrkal stared at the display, mandibles slack. This violates every Concord limitation. Elias nodded. Which is why we never used it. A reptilian delegate hissed. Then why now? Elias folded his hands in front of him. Because deterrence only works if it's absolute. The feed cut at last, leaving the chamber lit only by starlight. No one spoke. Even Zyrkal seemed frozen, his authority drained by the absence of his fleet. Elias broke the silence gently. For the record, the 7th spear will be returned. Crews unharmed. Ships intact. Zyrkal looked up sharply. Returned? In stages, Elias said. To ensure understanding. A low sound rippled through the council, not laughter this time, but fear. Elias stepped forward 1 pace. Earth has no interest in conquest. But we will not be tested again. No one interrupted him. Somewhere in the chamber, a counselor finally whispered the thought none of them could escape. What have we just done? Elias didn't answer. He already knew. No one spoke at first. The Galactic Concord Council chamber, once filled with layered voices and ritual dominance, now felt hollow. Delegates sat rigid on their platforms, sensory crests dim, armored limbs still. The silence wasn't respectful. It was afraid. Zyrkal broke it. This session is compromised, the Threxian said, forcing authority back into his tone. The human delegation has violated every assumption of proportional response. Elias Vance faced him without hostility. Assumptions are not laws. You concealed weapons of mass influence, Zyarkal snapped. You deceived the council. We complied with disclosure thresholds, Elias replied. You never asked the right questions. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Several delegates checked archived records, searching for loopholes they now suspected had always been there. A Heliox counselor leaned forward, voice unsteady. Commander Vance, why was none of this detected? Elias gestured toward the stars beyond the dome. Because our defenses don't announce themselves. They don't emit. They don't posture. Impossible, another delegate said. Every power projects deterrence. Elias nodded. That's why deterrence fails. Zyarkal's claws tightened. You could have ruled the spiral arm. We could, Elias agreed. The admission landed harder than any threat. Then why didn't you? The Heliox counselor asked. Elias paused, choosing his words carefully. Because conquest teaches dependence. And dependence breeds rebellion. Humanity learned that lesson before we left our planet. A projection ignited beside him without prompting. Images flickered, ancient human conflicts, collapsed empires, scarred cities. The footage wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Aftermaths. Ruins reclaimed by time. We nearly destroyed ourselves chasing dominance, Elias continued. So we built a doctrine around restraint. Zyarkal scoffed weakly. A convenient philosophy for the strong. For the cautious, Elias corrected. Strength doesn't require witnesses. Another delegate spoke, voice thin. Those fields you used. Shepherd constructs. How long have they existed? Elias met its gaze. Long enough that we hoped never to activate them. You designed them for war, Zyarkal accused. No, Elias said. We designed them for endings. The chamber shifted again, discomfort deepening. Ending wars was not a concept the Concord had ever prioritized. Zyarkal straightened, forcing defiance. The Dominion will not forget this humiliation. Elias regarded him calmly. Nor should you. Then you invite retaliation. Elias shook his head. No. We prevent it. With a subtle gesture, the projection changed. The seventh spear reappeared, intact, drifting within controlled space. One by one, Threxian vessels were released, guided back toward their origin vector. They're being returned, a delegate whispered. Every ship, Elias said. Every crew. With their sensors fully intact. Zyarkal's eyes widened slightly. You're letting us go? Yes. Why? So your admirals can review the data, Elias replied. So your strategists can model the outcome. So your civilians understand the cost of curiosity. A heavy realization settled across the chamber. This wasn't mercy. It was instruction. A reptilian counselor swallowed. What are you asking in return? Elias deactivated the projection. Nothing new. Recognition. Borders respected. Earth left alone. Zyarkal laughed once, hollow. And if the council refuses? Elias didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Then the next incursion won't be removed. It will be resolved. No one asked what that meant. The Concord's speaker, a being of light and harmonic resonance that rarely intervened, finally activated its platform. Commander Elias Vance, it intoned, does humanity seek amendment to its status? Elias considered the chamber, the fear, the recalculations already underway. No, he said. We seek stability. Through supremacy, the speaker asked. Through certainty, Elias answered. Zyarkal lowered his gaze. It was a small movement. It changed everything. The speaker's tone shifted. By unanimous emergency authority, this council acknowledges Earth as a sovereign power with autonomous defense doctrine. No one objected. Elias inclined his head. Wise. The speaker continued. All hostile actions against Sol are suspended indefinitely. A release of tension swept the chamber, mixed with shame. Zyr Call spoke again, quieter now. If we had one, what would you have done? Elias met his eyes. You wouldn't have known. The implication chilled even the oldest delegates. Elias stepped back, returning to his original position at the edge. Humanity does not conquer, he said, addressing the room. We wait. We observe. And if necessary, we end threats so completely that no one feels the need to try again. He turned to leave. Commander, the Heliox counselor called. Will you remain as liaison? Elias paused. For now. And after? Elias glanced once more at the stars. That depends on whether this lesson holds. He walked off the platform. Behind him, the Galactic Council remained frozen in silence, no longer wondering if attacking Earth was insane. Now they understood why it had been their last mistake. The chamber emptied slowly, not with ceremony but with caution. Delegates departed in staggered intervals, entourages whispering, escorts scanning empty space as if threats lingered in the air itself. The Galactic Council had adjourned, yet no one felt concluded. Power structures did not collapse loudly. They eroded quietly, grain by grain, certainty by certainty. Elias Vance remained. He stood alone near the viewport, watching Vale Prime rotate beneath the station's shadow. Oceans glimmered. Storms traced pale scars across continents. A world older than human history, suddenly aware it was no longer at the center of anything. You plan to leave without saying goodbye, said a voice behind him. Elias turned. Lieutenant Marichin approached, posture relaxed for the first time in days. Didn't seem necessary, he replied. She joined him at the glass. They're terrified. They should be cautious, Elias said. Fear fades. Memory lasts. Mara folded her arms. Earth Command wants a full report. Media's already spinning theories. Some say the Dominion never crossed the line. Elias smiled faintly. Let them. Silence keeps the myth alive. A low hum vibrated through the station as distant jump gates activated. Former aggressors retreating. Observers recalibrating. Opportunists reconsidering. Mara studied him. You knew this would change everything. Yes, Elias said. That's why we waited. You could have ended the Dominion. Elias shook his head. Ending enemies is easy. Ending cycles is harder. She looked at him sharply. You think this did that? No, he said. But it started something new. Behind them, the chamber doors slid open again. The Concord speaker entered alone, light form dimmer than before, harmonic resonance subdued. Commander Vance, it said. There is concern. There always is, Elias replied calmly. Several member species fear reprisal. Others request defense treaties. A few propose preemptive disarmament of humanity. Elias turned fully now. And what do you propose? The speaker's tones wavered. Transparency. Elias considered. We gave you certainty. Transparency invites testing. Then how does peace hold? The speaker asked. Elias met its shifting light. By knowing the answer to a question you never ask. And that is? What happens if we stop caring? The speaker fell silent, processing. Mara exhaled slowly. You scared them more than the fleet losses. That was unavoidable, Elias said. We didn't just stop an attack. We changed the rules. A faint alert chimed in his ear. Earth Command again. Priority low. Status green. All systems stable, the voice reported. Shepard fields disengaged. Sol remains dark. Elias acknowledged and closed the channel. Dark? Mara echoed. Unseen, Elias corrected. That's how we prefer it. The speaker drifted closer. Will humanity expand now? No, Elias said. Expansion draws attention. Attention invites conflict. Yet others will expand toward you, the speaker warned. Elias nodded. We'll notice. The implication hung heavy. The speaker dimmed further. Then this council must adapt. Or be replaced, Elias said gently. That, finally, unsettled it. Mara glanced between them. Sir, shuttle's ready. Elias took one last look at Vale Prime. History won't record this correctly, he said. Mara smiled slightly. History rarely does. As they turned to leave, a junior council aide hesitated near the doorway, eyes wide. Commander? Elias paused. Yes? The aide swallowed. If another council someday forgets this lesson, what happens? Elias considered the question longer than expected. Then he answered honestly. Then humanity will remind them, he said. Once. The shuttle bay lights glowed ahead, sterile and quiet. Beyond them waited stars, routes recalculated, futures rewritten. As the hatch sealed, the Galactic Concord Council chamber remained behind, empty, echoing, changed forever. And across the galaxy, long-range sensors recorded nothing unusual from Earth. Which was the most terrifying signal of all.